my fishy friends, Mama Mer here. Today I wanted to do a comparison between two different types of customizable tails. The FinPainter tail and the Mertailor Custom Whimsy. I don't edit these videos, just a forewarning, because I don't want you to think that I leave anything out or that I'm cutting things. So if you wonder why it's like this, it is deliberate. Just bear with me, I'll try to keep it as short as possible. So a quick comparison. This was my Mertailor Custom Whimsy that I ordered for the Fantasy one. I chose to go with the front and the side hip fins, and then the ankle fins. I did not want a dorsal. Long story, I just ended up ruining them. Okay, so as you know, with Mertailor, they use their custom silicone tails, which are definitely more on the floppy side. You gotta be careful, these things will take you out. They're very flowy in the water, moderate propulsion, not great, not horrible, better than a fin fun, but less than one of the more rigid fins. There's very little drag on these. The more fins you add, the more drag you're gonna get. Okay, it's made out of, it's not a dive suit material, so I have to be careful not to say that. It's 84% polyester, 16% spandex, machine washable, lay dry, you know, normal standard stuff. This tail took about 14 weeks to print. Okay. FinPainter, they are, I believe, out of Korea. They're not a US company. First off, there's nothing wrong with not being a US company. Okay, guys, I get the whole American proud thing that's been going on, but other people got to eat, live too, so I'm not opposed to supporting other merfolk manufacturers in other countries, especially when they're working their butts off to make these things. So just gonna throw that out there. This is my FinPainter. There's a video, if you scroll down, about when it first arrived. With his, I chose to do the hip fins, a dorsal, which is huge, okay? I did not choose to do the ankle fins at that time or the front hip fins. With his tails, it comes with an insert like this that you sandwich your monofin in between, similar to your finfolk or swim tails. They are not as thick or as rigid as a finfolk insert or a swimtails insert, so both of these together honestly weigh maybe a pound, and this is pretty darn big. Whereas if I were to use that for the swim tails or finfolk, I'm adding 6-7 pounds to the tail. He gives two options for what you can use. His standard, which is Mahina. For those of you who like this, it's a rubber monofin. It's not my favorite just because I'm an in-between size, doesn't fit me super great, but has a really good amount of propulsion, little bit of flippiness to it, so it looks good in the water. Or you can use a Mermaid Linden, which I love this one just because it's very stiff. It gives you a good amount of push, and you know, it propels you in the water really well, which with larger flukes I enjoy, because larger fluke means more pull, more drag. Again, more fins, more drag, larger fluke, more drag. Just the more resistance against the water is what you're gonna get. Now, the main comparisons against the two. Mertailor, you have to work with a designer. You're gonna spend at least an extra $100 to $125. He only has 4 approved designers last time I checked that you can work with, and they are based off of set templates. So while you can alter the colors and the pattern as far as the print, you are stuck with your, obviously, 1, 2, or 3 at this point. He has not created this for the 4 yet. And then you have the options of your front hip, your side hip, your ankle, and your dorsal fins. They are set though. What you get is what you get. The shape and size will always be the same no matter who gets it. You can alter the coloration on it, not the shape, not the size, okay? Decently thick waistband, so it's about 1 inch. Good flexibility. The material, again, it's very soft, very flexible. FinPainters. You work directly with the tail designer. you do not go through a third person. He will be the one that draws everything and shows it to you. You can make this however you want. You can add a blended waist, not add a blended waist. You can do side fins, front hip, back, ankle, whatever. The biggest difference here is because he does not use a preformed silicone fluke. This was the design I chose. Please ignore my modifications at this point. Again, if you look at the original video, you can see how it showed up. The tail can come in itself. I believe there's 4 or 5 different designs for shape and size that you can do. The same with the hip fins, the dorsal fin. You can change how they actually look, not just the colors, which is great. Lead time on these are about the same as your Mertailors. You're going to be looking at about 14 weeks once the design is submitted. With him, about the same. Now, the more busy parts of the year, busy seasons, you're going to have a longer wait time. Always ask ahead of time. They will both let you know very honestly how long it's going to take. Okay, waistband. Now, I will admit that in the time I've had this, I've had lots and lots and lots of swims. The waistband has come loose on this. So you can see it'll flip on me. That's only on the front and the back. There were a couple stitches that came loose. I need to fix that. But again, I am very rough with this tail and I use it a lot because it is my preferred. Style of fins. FinPainter has a foam insert that he custom shapes. I'll do this, you can see. So that part of it will stand out and will stick out more, similar to that of a FinFun material. But then also then extends it with the custom shape of the actual fin so that you still also have the floppy, flowy part. So this allows it in the water to stand out more while it's flowing. It gives it that rigidity while still being flowy, which is great. With Mertailor, theirs are basically the same material that was used in the tail, simply double printed. They do add stitch work to it to give it some detailing, but it's very floppy, flowy. It looks beautiful in the water, but you're not gonna get them standing out. So depending on how you move, they might stick against your body, they might not. It's a toss-up. As far as detailing goes though, these are gonna have a lot more detail to them in the water and on dry land shoots simply because of that extra material added. Okay, the material itself is very comparable. They're not the same though. If I had, so he has his label in for his, he does not. The materials thickness wise, can't see through either of them. They're about the same thickness for the material. I would say Mertailors might be a hair thicker than FinPainters. And I think that Mertailors, just from my experience with all the different materials, his has a little bit more polyester to it. It has more of a polyester feel to the material, whereas this almost feels like it might be a polyester nylon cotton blend, which is very, very super soft, which I really, really like. But this might be a hair warmer than this. Waistbands, since I was talking about this one coming loose. This is FinPainter's waistband. This is Mertailor's waistband. Mertailor has about half the size. So let me turn this inside out so you can get a better view. Don't even, sorry, I have children. Hence Mama Mer. Ha! So that's his waistband. There's Mertailor's. Okay. I have not had an issue with this slipping. This I have. This also though, in Mertailor's defense, I ordered too large. So the waistband size, well, I think plays a part of it. This is also just because I ordered it in the wrong size. Mertailor tends to run big. So with their spandex fantasy line, I guess you would call it, the swimsuit brand, I would run a small. So I thought that's what I would run in their Whimsies, and it turned out I was an extra small. So this is getting adjusted, and then I will do a more direct comparison for how well it stays up. That is also why I have not done the review for swimming in this tail yet, simply because I know part of that is of my own human error. Cost. This is where it gets dicey. So Mertailor tails, again, we mentioned you have to use a designer. The designer is going to take several weeks. So you're going to pay at least $100, $125 minimum for them to come up with a design for you to submit to Mertailor, at which point you're going to pay over $400 for the manufacturing of this. It is high quality. There are very little, if any, oopses that I could find in this tail when it arrived. Maybe one or two areas where it looked like the machine got snagged when it was being sewn, for minor areas. But, you know, they're a well-oiled machine. They have been going since 2016, I believe, and they've got this down to a science. You know, they've got a whole in-house crew that does this, and, you know, they're doing great. FinPainter. Again, no third party is needed. Designing the tail with all the bells and whistles, you're gonna look at about $250. So the cost difference is going to be extreme. He also makes matching tops for about $80 with fins, which I will be ordering. I have ordered, I'm in the queue for those, for a couple of them. One that'll match this and one that'll match this, so I can review those as well. Mertailor does, for some of his tails, have matching tops. You can get a custom matching top. You're going to be upwards $125 plus, and it's going to be a standard bathing suit top with a print. So there's that too. Now, but again, remember I mentioned well-oiled machine. This is a newer manufacturer. I believe he is still hand stitching everything himself. He has no helpers. Mertailor, you're going to find, is always going to be one solid, continuous piece of material, waist to fluke tip. Always. FinPainter does two pieces, partly I think because they make their flukes so large. However, again, you can go back and look at the original reviews. He blends them by following the scale pattern and stitching them in a scale pattern instead of a line, and then also will follow some of that stitching up several layers to blend it in so it looks like a detail. You will, however, still find some imperfections in a FinPainter. They're minor, they're not things that are going to draw a lot of attention, but you will find more of the little things where the sewing machine, let me see if I can show you one, like right there, where the sewing machine got caught and they had to restart the stitch. Little things like that. Now, obviously with this design, because I chose the rigid, you know, what was supposed to look like a beat up type tail, a rougher tail, it doesn't do anything at all to this. Again, one of the minor imperfections, a little area where the fabric got turned inside out, or rather didn't get turned inside out and accidentally popped out during the process. You will find some little things like that with his tails. Again, this is a newer manufacturer. He's hand stitching everything. He's still in his beginning phases, I'll say, with this game. So you are going to find minor imperfections. As far as swimmability, again, the two different styles, you're going to get more air bubbles trapped in a fluke that has the plastic inserts just naturally. That's just a style thing. You learn that you have to get that out, versus the Mertailor where you don't. But then that's also a common problem with Finfolk, is that they get the air bubbles also if you don't get everything out of that plastic. End of the day, you are going to pay half for FinPainter as what you're going to pay for Mertailor. I would say they're comparable. They are just as good for swimming. Their designs are gorgeous. Everyone that I know that's gotten a tail from him has been happy with their final design and what has shown up. You're going to get minor little things like I showed you with the stitching. However, for the cost difference and for the difference in being able to create, they are, like I said, they are comparable. They're just newer. Part of the reason I'm doing this video is I had someone say, oh, I love your tail. Who are they by? I told them that, oh, well, you know, they're not as good as. That's just not true. There are differences. There's always going to be differences between manufacturers, whether you are using a Mertailor, whether you're using a FinFolk, a Swimtails, FinPainter. There's a new company out of Australia that's been forming in the past year. They're new to the tail making business. Moonsung Mermaids is another one we're going to be reviewing in the near future. They're all newer makers does not make them bad. Not being from the US does not make them bad. Style is a personal preference, as well as what you prefer to swim in. I know people who absolutely adore the Mahina, which he creates for. I personally don't care for it. I love the Linden, just because it's more fun for me to swim with. Is it my favorite for photo shoots? Maybe not, but swimming-wise, love it. Mertailor, their monofins are way heavy, but they look really cool, and they have their own fun aspect to swimming in the water as well. At the end of the day, it's about your personal preference. Whether it comes down to one of these manufacturers, whether it comes down to a Suntails, a FinFun. Sometimes people just prefer one monofin over the other. And the important thing is to remember that's their preference, and we should be accepting of that. Just because you swim in a quote-unquote name brand tail maker, Mertailor, again, FinFolk, Swimtails, Mermaid Cat, whatever, that doesn't mean that the person swimming in the FinFun can't afford or maybe doesn't even own those tails. It just means they may not prefer them. So at the end of the day, guys, just remember to be kind and to be understanding and to be open. If it's someone you've never heard of and you're curious, there's so many mermaids that are willing to review tails. Come message me, message Mermaid Cat, or who else is it that was doing them? Jasmine or Nikki. I mean, do a YouTube search. There's plenty of people reviewing tails and manufacturers. One of us, I'm sure, will be happy to order what it is you are curious about and then show you what it is you get so that you can be more informed. But don't just assume that because you've never heard of them that they're not as good or they're not a good manufacturer, because that's just not the case and you might be missing out. So anyway, so again, this was a review between, or not even a review, but just a comparison, because at the end of the day, they are two very different companies. They're not something that can be compared, one is better than the other. They're just different. Mertailor offers a specific type of tail. Their custom tails have less flexibility for what he will create, but they are very well done, and you know what, they're great. I love Mertailors. I have at least 6 of these suckers in my closet. Not the Whimsies, but in general I have like 6 of them. FinPainter, this is the only one I have because I've just loved it so much I haven't ordered a second one, although that is on my to-do list. So again, they're just different. Be willing to be open and ask and try new things. And I hope this has been informative and it helps to have a side-by-side comparison. Again, if there's another tail manufacturer that you're curious about or you would like to see more on, please reach out, email me, message me. I'm on Facebook, Instagram. Instagram is Mermaid Aquamarine. And you can find me on Facebook, obviously. So anyway, I will stop wasting your time. I hope you guys are staying warm and safe wherever you are, and that you are getting a chance to swim and have fun. This is the Mama Mer. I hope to get to see you guys out there soon. Happy swimming.